Welcome to the last episode of the Off Topic podcast for 2015. Sitting to my right is Charles.
Yay! I have opinions.
Sitting to my right by like 3,000 miles, but sitting to my right.
Yes. Well, not politically, but yes.
You know Charles, you know me. Let's get into it. Season finale, Doctor Who. Let's talk about the season.
Yes, let's. Now, for those of you who just need a little bit of background, there was a two-part, really technically a three-part season finale this year. There's Face the Raven, in which, spoiler alert, Clara, the companion, was
killed. Wait, hold up.
Oh.
Spoilers, this entire episode for Doctor Who and Star Wars The Force Awakens, okay? Seriously, if you don't want to be spoiled for any of these things, turn it off now and come back to us later, okay? Yeah. You've been warned. You go past this point, you're going to get spoiled, okay? Moving on.
So, Doctor Who, we had sort of a three-part season finale, really. I mean, there was two parts in specific, but it was prefaced by Face the Raven, which was an episode in which the companion Clara, who's been with the Doctor for a long time now, dies. And the reasons for that happening are a little weak, but the story hung together, I thought. And Jenna,
it hung together, but it was super weak. I mean, she just said, well, there's going to be a loophole, and the Doctor's going to get me out of it, so give me the tattoo that makes the Raven come kill me.
Yes. Yes. And then to die in Diagon Alley, that just seems so undignified.
Yeah.
But no, it was a dumb plot move, but what I thought was interesting was, for those of you who've been following the season, the place that we're talking about where this episode takes place is under the control of a woman named Ashilda, who is immortal. She's a human being, but she's immortal. She got made immortal by the Doctor. And she became the mayor of this place, I guess because she checked in on Foursquare more than anyone else. But anyway, she apparently has the power to assign these tattoos that when they count down on the back of your neck. And by the way, that was a hella cool effect. I know it was a very simple effect, but I loved it. Tattoos that count down. Oh, if only. Anyway. So quite a few hipsters, I would put some of those tattoos on.
Get a quantum lock on somebody at the coffee shop.
So anyway, these tattoos count down, and when they do, you die. And Clara thought she could, who has been increasingly recklessly trying to play her own version of the Doctor. She is... this has been the one character arc with this character that I've actually enjoyed, which is what would happen if you are a companion, you hang out with the Doctor long enough, you get a God complex. That's what happens.
That calls back to the Soldiers of Time back in previous seasons, right? I mean, that's what Davros called them all. He called them his Soldiers of Time. The Doctor's army has made a couple of different appearances in a couple of different episodes.
Yeah, particularly Liz Sladen's character, and particularly some other Nicholas Courtney and some of the other actors that the characters they played became defenders of the Earth essentially. Yeah. And Ashilda was sort of taking on this kind of role, but Clara in particular was really trying to become another Doctor essentially. She wanted to be his equal. And the problem is that you die a lot if you try that. So why he doesn't get injured more is a mystery to me. But of course, she ends up making a bargain that she thought she would get out of. A brilliant loophole, I thought. Well, I'm under a shielded protection, so therefore they can't enforce this contract. Oh, no, wrong. Because it wasn't a shield is doing, somebody else's. Anyway, bottom line, Clara dies. She dies, really dies. Only in Stephen Moffat's world, nobody really
dies. Yeah.
Oh, it was so... The reason I'm starting here is because we then go through the magnificent Heaven Sent and the mostly very, very good Hellbent, and we finally get to an ending that can only be described as stupid. Sorry, I'm sorry, and I really that was the thing that ruined. Little things get under my skin, as you'll find out when we get to Star Wars. But
got 4 words for you: Callahan's Space-Time Saloon.
Well, yeah, right. And so anyway, right. So here's the brilliant ending I figured out, And I'm not Stephen Moffat. I'm not cleverer than he is. So why I figured this out and he couldn't, I have no idea.
You're here to hear first. So let's hear Charles's plan.
Here's the ending for Face the Raven that should have happened. Is that maybe they would still have to go through what happened in Hellbent or in Heaven Sent, but by Hellbent, what should have happened is that Ashilda goes, you know what? This is really my doing. I set this up. I set this trap for you to walk into. And now, even though Clara did something I totally didn't expect, it's still my responsibility. Give me the tattoo.
Yeah.
And one of two things would have happened. And both of them would have been great. One of them is that Ashilda can beat the sentence of the Raven because the Raven can fly right through it and she just gets up again 5 minutes later. Or because she's immortal. Or she would actually die, which is kind of what she would like to have happen. She has lived a terribly, terribly long time, not had a great time doing it. And, you know, she sort of has a death wish already or did. And so that either one of those endings would have been way better endings. And the Doctor, having been responsible for having created her in the first place, could still have been, I'm going to find who did this. Because the Raven didn't just come out of, you know, a J.K. Rowling book. It you know, was part of, somebody sent it. And so he could have still done the magnificent Heaven Sent episode, which now we'll move on to that. So Peter Capaldi gets teleported. I love it when he's separated from the TARDIS. These always make for great stories. And in this case, he's all alone. There is literally one other actor in the entire production, and that actor does not speak.
Yeah, it's interesting how Doctor Who stories reverse ship in a bottle works better than potential ship in a bottle episodes where they're stuck in the TARDIS. Looking back at the Matt Smith episode, I forget the title of the episode, where the ship gets disabled by a junker and the Doctor's got to journey to the heart of the TARDIS.
You just named the episode. Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
Is Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. Okay, fine. Hey, go me, right? That episode did not work for me on any level.
Right.
Because it was well, it's its own time loop.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with that being this Doctor Who, and they've done much worse things than that. It just, there was no impact to the episode at all because of it. And the end trilogy of this last season of Doctor Who, there was character development, there was emotional impact. The Doctor went a long way, and given the fact that he can feel the spinning of space and time, even though each time he was rebooted by the transmat,
right?
It doesn't mean that the character did not realize the spin of time.
Well, in fact, he actually goes up to the roof and says, "Those stars aren't in the right place. If I didn't know better, I'd swear I'd traveled X number of years."
Yeah.
And eventually that becomes 2 billion years he spends doing this. To, admittedly, punch your way through a harder-than-diamond wall, oh, okay, that's a little dumb, but fine. Given enough time, you can do that.
Yeah. 2 billion years, that works.
Yeah, water can melt away the hardest diamond, but it takes a long time. That's all. So, yeah, okay, I'll buy that. It's a little silly, but fine. But mostly that episode was genius. I mean, sure, it looked like he was caught in some kind of video game Nintendo castle. Yes, fair. But it was just Peter Capaldi, just talking to himself, just figuring things out. You really and you just got to see why this guy owns the part so well. And he does. Oh, it's just beautiful. He does a really terrific job in this episode. And one of the things there's two things you learned very quickly. One is, I don't know about, maybe you guys saw it coming all the way through, but it only dawned on me as we went through the episode. I see what's happening and where he's going and why he's going there. And I was just like, this is nicely done, right? Because I love it when an onion unskins itself just like that. Oh, it's nice. But the other thing is you realize very quickly why the Doctor needs a companion. Because if he doesn't, he does crazy stuff and talks to himself the entire time. By the time we got to the point in the episode where I realized that all the skulls we had seen up to this point were him.
The only the problem is I saw that a mile away.
See, some people are cleverer than me, but that's fine.
The reason why I saw it a mile away is because I saw the skulls and said, these are all human-like skulls.
Well, yeah, when I saw it the second time and the way he looked at it, I knew, at that moment I was like, oh, God, how did I miss that?
But so, I mean, there were hints for me earlier in the episode that said, why is there thousands of Doctor skulls down there? You know, I assume that maybe he missed he shanked the dive and died in the water or something. It never quite turned out that way. The trilogy of episodes, it worked for me, but it could have worked better. Oh,
particularly that ending. I was, you know, this is the thing, and we're going to say the same thing about Star Wars. If the show is moving along well enough, if it's entertaining enough, if there's the right number of explosions versus exposition, you'll buy an awful lot that when you stop and think about it, you go, wait a minute, that wouldn't work in real life. That's okay. We buy into that. That's part of the suspension of disbelief.
Willing suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, it's very important to drama. And it's sort of actually important that it not work exactly as it would in real life, because otherwise that would be quite boring. So I get that. But then, so we come down to Hellbent, where the Doctor has punched his way through. He's on Gallifrey. Now, this is immediately where the episode starts to go south. I knew that was going to happen when I was watching Hellbent, but when I saw it in Heaven Sent, you know, I was like, oh, the graphics department convinced him this was a good idea because it looks great. Even though, for some reason, everybody outside of Gallifrey looks like they're from Spain. Well, it was, you know, I think it was actually shot in Spain or someplace.
I don't really know. But the thing is so the Doctor grew up in this. So the Doctor was originally a Sheboygan that got picked for the Pridonian Academy. That didn't make a lot of sense.
No, it didn't make a lot of sense. And he's kind of a hero to these. Well, first of all, it's ridiculous that you know, the Sheboygans, and this is a reference to.
This is way back. This is hardcore Doctor Who nerdery.
Yeah,
here.
The non-Time Lord people who live on Gallifrey are apparently Mexicans. I can't explain it, but it's like but it looked like every Western you've ever seen, right down to guns pointed at him as he tries to eat his dinner. Okay, so that was a little weird, but fine, we'll go along with that. We definitely, I definitely appreciate the long-standing validation of the idea that there are two classes of people on Gallifrey. Fine. Then all of a sudden the Sisterhood of Karn shows up for absolutely no reason.
No reason at all.
No reason at all. And yes, I love that woman who plays the leader. She's great, but ever since Night of the Doctor, Stephen Moffat has rediscovered Karn and the Sisterhood of Karn, and he just cannot get enough of them now. And so they're in practically everything. They've been there throughout the season in little extras and, you know, bits like that, and indirectly in the show as well. And then on top of that, Gallifrey. Now this part you can sort of work out, but they don't directly reference it. Gallifrey is supposed to be lost. This was a huge plot point, not only in the 50th anniversary, but then in a whole bunch of later episodes, where we at the end of the 50th anniversary we were set up for. The Doctor's going to go on a quest now to find and retrieve Gallifrey.
Why didn't they do that?
Why didn't they do that?
So instead the Doctor just rolls into it. Oh, I'll find it eventually.
Well, it's behind this diamond wall. All I have to do is spend 2 billion years punching my way through, and there it is.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't actually behind the diamond wall, right? They wanted to figure out what he knew about the hybrid.
Right.
Which, you know, all of a sudden is this pooped out thing.
Yeah, this the old cheesy bit of a prophecy that must come true. Now, come on. The Time Lords are the most technologically advanced race in the universe, and they have prophecies?
Well,
really?
They established that, though. They established that when Tennant regenerated, the crazy old lady scribbling crap on the table.
Yeah, they are a combination of technologically advanced, but we still go talk to psychics and do our tarot cards.
Well, I think that can be argued with staring at the what do they call it, the Great Schism? What did they call it?
It drives you a little nuts, and sometimes
that
gives
could
you
potentially drive you a little crazy.
Insight. And in fact, we saw what happened when that happened to a Dalek.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Okay, all right, fine. Well, that's valid. We'll give them points for that.
But in any event,
The point is that although this is not, again, explicitly explained, and that's the problem, but this is Gallifrey 2 billion years from now. So, yes, it's been found and it came back. And they just sort of blow that off.
The only thing I can think of is maybe it was like the Doctor has put civilizations a half a second ahead of the timeline. And in fact, the Daleks were hidden in the Medusa Cascade out of sync with regular time as well. So that's the only explanation I had for that, is that Gallifrey was always, a year ahead of everybody else, which if you think about it is really kind of stupid. But
it's ridiculous. But in this particular case, it appears to be, at least in my understanding of the episode, is that the Doctor just says, well, yeah, but this is 2 billion years. We're near the end of the universe now. Of course Gallifrey's back now by this point. So he's time traveled the slow way around. So we just missed the part. It has yet to happen when Gallifrey is actually returned, which was probably some future special. But maybe not. The way Stephen Moffat runs these things, we probably won't get that.
No, I think it's going to be hand-waved out of existence again. I'm not sure where it's going to be a thing anymore. There was no big escape sequence really to speak of. He got away, right, and ended up back in frickin' Utah again.
Well, no, Nevada.
Nevada.
There's actually a line about that in there, that the cafe has moved to the other side of the hill.
Yeah,
that's what he meant.
The hill, that's right.
Yeah. But at this point, as much as I love some of the things Moffat does with this show, these kind of things drive me nuts. And at this point, I am half expecting the Christmas special to start off with Peter Capaldi walking out of a shower to his wife that we've never been introduced to before and saying, what a strange dream.
We have been introduced to her, right?
We have been introduced to her, you're right.
Yeah, well, earlier on the Off Topic podcast, I had predicted that the whole Clara situation was going to end in blood and fire, and the last couple episodes would be the Doctor raising hell over the entire universe, which, frankly, I would have preferred to what we got.
That is what the promise that we got in Hellbent. That's the promise that we got. And there's stuff in there, I just want to stress this. There was stuff in there I loved. I loved that he refused to be threatened by any of the Time Lords until finally Rassilon has to come out.
Yeah, I never really got down with that whole Rassilon reborn thing.
Well, no, neither did I. And of course, he's regenerated again, and they play with that on another character later. But I love the fact that he stared them down. That he didn't have to lift a finger, he didn't have to do anything. He is just the Doctor, and that's scary.
You get some credit. You get some credit for saving society as you know it.
Right. And this was, that whole sequence was one big homage to the very best of Westerns. And I have to admit, it worked. I loved it. What didn't work for me, so then all of a sudden, after this tremendous set-off, there's just no payoff at all. The Doctor disposes of Rassilon, takes over Gallifrey, solves the problem by visiting with the ghosts in the basement. Sure, why not?
Well, my biggest problem, you were actually running out of time to talk about this, because we're going to move on to Star Wars here in a few minutes. We're actually talking about more media. We're talking about 3 hours of television versus 2 hours of movies here in the same amount of time. But in any event, the episode is like Lord of the Rings. The end of the episode, at the end of the season finale, ends like 4 times.
Yeah. And any one of the first 3 would have been a better ending than the one we actually ended up with. But in brief, he rescues Clara from death, but she's in between heartbeats. She's sort of existing as a temporal anomaly in between her next to last and last heartbeat. So
but that's the least outlandish thing that happened in the entire episode. Yeah,
but then she gets her own diner, which is a TARDIS, and Ashilda as her assistant, and flies off to new adventures. What? No.
It's Doctor Who. I actually don't have a huge problem with that.
Oh, no.
Romana got dropped off in E-Space, and she ended up in the extended universe being the president of Gallifrey for the longest time.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a problem with companions not riding off into the sunset exactly the way that you would expect they would. Sarah Jane Smith didn't, even frickin' Harry developed the Zygon nerve gas.
But what I really hated was that the whole purpose of this finale was to give Louise Jameson, the actress who plays Clara, a great send-off.
Louise Jameson?
Sorry.
Try again.
Yeah, really. Brain fart. Jenna Louise Coleman, the actress who plays Clara, a really great send-off. And they did, and then took it back.
Yeah, shout out to our fact checkers, by the way, which you may or may not have just heard on your podcast feed.
No, they will not be in the final edit.
They've got cattle prods standing by. I've got one standing behind me as well. So if I factually slip up, I get a shock.
If you are the kind of person who is annoyed by small things that really shouldn't have been in there, the season finale of Doctor Who is going to bug you like crazy. And I mentioned this on another podcast I do called The Happiness Patrol, but this is more space junk that we've launched into the Doctor Who universe, things that are never going to get resolved. We're never going to find out what happened to Ashilda and Clara. We're never going to see them again. That's never going to happen.
The problem I've got with the Clara's resolution is it doesn't do anything with the Claras that were split all along the Doctor's timeline.
Well,
so how many hundreds of Claras exist across space and time?
In another longer episode, I'll have to explain to you how the Doctor rescuing her out of his own timeline actually nullifies all that. But never mind.
Oh, I don't buy that for one freaking minute, but that's okay.
Yeah.
We're done here.
Yeah,
we're moving on.
Disappointing, Moffat. Try harder next time.
So anyway, the bigger story of the week, at least, the month was Doctor Who. But
we have some balls, actually, just talking about Doctor Who for half an hour first, before we get to Star Wars.
Before we get to Star Wars. The Force Awakens came out Thursday or Friday, depending on how you want to count it. Yeah. I saw it on Eastern Time, 7 o'clock on Thursday. Charles saw it at 1:30 in the morning Pacific Time in his own theater.
Friday morning, yes.
And we have opinions.
And
I know that's shocking. To summarize, and I've already spoken about this on the main podcast, which you probably have already heard.
But now we can be all spoilery. Yay.
When I was 7, I do not think I would have appreciated this movie. I think there would have been too much stuff going on, and I think there wasn't enough cleanliness of plot and plot direction for me to have really appreciated the film like I did when I was 7 and saw the first Star Wars. The first Star Wars was visually uncluttered. I mean, yes, it was a lived-in universe, but it was visually uncluttered. There was always something going on. There was always some extra detail. At the cantina scene, it was amped up 10 times more than the cantina scene was in A New Hope.
I was going to say, which cantina scene are we talking about?
Well, I'm talking about New Hope. I'm talking about the original cantina scene that spawned the disco tune.
Yes.
In A New Hope. In every aspect, from the Starkiller base being 1,000 times the size of the Death Star, and being carved out of a planet or whatever, everything was ratcheted up J.J. Abrams style for this movie.
Yeah.
And whether it had to be or not is a separate question. Okay, it's Star Wars. It is the hero's tale. It is a remix movie of Episode 4.
I have to disagree. It's a straight up remake. It's a straight up remake with an update and a couple of lame twists.
Well, here's where we're going to have to differ a little bit on this. The hero's journey is not a new concept.
No.
Okay, the hero's journey is not a new concept. The concept of an elder mentor is not a new concept.
No.
Originally played, Obi-Wan Kenobi was the elder mentor in Episode 4.
Right.
Han Solo was the older mentor in Episode 7.
And in Episode 8, it'll be Luke.
In Episode 8, it'll be Luke. There will be another, and like in Episode 5 was Yoda.
Let me start off with the positive things, because there's so much to like here. And I am generally very positive about it. But as I say,
I am too.
Little things get under my skin. Should you go see it? Absolutely.
Yes.
Does it suck? No, hell no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Some of it's quite awesome. And I saw it in the IMAX 3D presentation. And for once, I thought the 3D worked pretty well most of the time. There were a couple of iffy moments there. But
I can see where it wasn't overdone.
Yeah. It wasn't overdone, and that was very
But on
well.
the other hand, there are some bits I could see were clearly designed for the 3D.
Yes.
Like the blaster bolt frozen in space.
Exactly. And just some of those shots of the big ships just hanging there. So...
Well, I think the ship's hanging there. That's not new, though.
No. But this is almost a shot-for-shot remake of episode 4, A New Hope, the 1977 film. And I mean right down to... a guy who was apolitical but was just minding his own business suddenly gets in over his head and makes a huge life change to decide to go join up with the Resistance. A holographic bit of information that is absolutely vital to the Resistance gets stuffed into a droid because nobody has email anymore, and must be transported away on the Millennium Falcon, no less, in order to make it back to the Rebel base.
Here's the thing, though. In the Star Wars universe, you can say that the Force provides. They've established that already, that the Force makes sure that key people are in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, for the will of the Force to be executed. And that's how you can hand-wave the whole repetition. Battlestar Galactica did it, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
This has all happened before, it will all happen again.
Yeah, but it was, to me, when you have so many good new ideas there, I love the actors that were cast in the new leading roles.
Fantastic job.
I loved
by
the
new generation.
use of the old
job.
actors, not just cameos. Well, except for one. Not just cameos, meaningful roles. And particularly Chewbacca. My God, this was practically his movie.
Yeah.
You know, I was thrilled by that. And that is, by the way, that guy, whose name escapes me.
Peter Mayhew.
That is Peter Mayhew playing him. I'm assuming most of the shots, except for the ones where, you know, he has to do backflips or whatever.
Yeah, because he's, I don't know, he's like, what, 1,000 years old?
Pretty old man now. I have met a lot of these older guys from the original Star Wars cast over the years, and I was very pleased to see. I was kind of disappointed that they couldn't find anything to do with Dave Prowse, but fine.
Going into the theater, I was reasonably certain that they were going to raise the entire old cast. That everybody but Luke Skywalker was going to be dead at the end of the movie. I was reasonably certain that that's how that was going to play out.
Yeah,
because they're old.
Well,
not that that's necessarily a problem.
A friend of mine tipped me off to the fact that one of them in particular, and even though we are spoilering here, I'm not going to spoil this. The one of them in particular is just very, very active in the film, and that's, you might as well be wearing a red shirt if you catch my drift, and I think you do. And so, you know, so we do say goodbye to one of the classic characters, and I think, unlike in Stephen Moffat's universe, I think he's going to stay dead.
Yeah, I think this one's a good dead. I think this is a full dead.
Yeah. A proper dead.
But on the other hand, Star Wars canon resurrected Darth Maul.
We're hoping that sci-fi death will not happen here.
I'm pretty sure, just based on the age of the actor.
Well, I think you know.
All right, look, Han Solo
the
dies.
deal.
Okay, Han Solo dies.
Yes, all right.
We already said we've already saying the actor, and we know it's not Luke. We already talked about it. So who's left?
I did mention Chewbacca early, but never mind. Okay, it's fine. It's out there. I feel like that was the deal. In fact, while I was watching the movie, I felt like I was watching a negotiation between J.J. Abrams and Harrison Ford. It's like, all right, I'll give it 150%, but this is it. Same deal that Leonard Nimoy made, and then got talked out of.
Actually, I hear it the other way around, that he said at the end of Star Trek II filming, I'll see you for Star Trek 3.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, Spock came back, but that's sci-fi for you. But you're right. I think this is as dead as sci-fi gets. I think that I just don't think there's any chance that he's coming back.
Right, and that's
other than as a Force ghost, possibly.
Yeah. Well, but he wasn't a Jedi. He was not a...
How do you know? How do you know that he wasn't strong in the Force? How do you know? Because his kid was one of the strongest that anyone had ever seen.
Yeah, but for some reason wasn't strong enough. I mean, a complete newbie beat him. And it's not due to inexperience, not due to lack of training, not due to not being strong. What happened there?
Not a newbie. I guarantee you this is the other Solo Organa kid. Guarantee you Rey is the other kid.
Well, you know, Leia didn't really react in the way that I would have expected. This is probably Luke's kid.
Well, whatever. It's still, then it's a Skywalker kid.
Right.
You know, one way or another, it is blood related. This is not a new bloodline that is this Force strong. It's not going to happen.
And yet, never managed to mention any of this to any of them. You know, I mean, well, we'll see. We'll see in Episode 8, I guess.
Well, how long has Luke been gone?
Well, since...
I mean, because...
Probably a couple of years, maybe
Kylo
longer.
Ren is well established he's well established in the First Order hierarchy.
Yeah. So maybe 5 or 10 years, possibly.
So it's been a while. I mean, clearly, because Ren is doing things that Darth Vader never did. I mean, Darth Vader blocked a blaster bolt with his hand, but was that the Force or was that his armor?
Yeah, right, exactly. And and again, you have to? Well, first of all, he calls Darth Vader grandfather, which was kind of weird. But also, really, you need another guy who wears a mask for, in this case, absolutely no reason at all.
Well, he's got a reason now. He took a freaking lightsaber slash to his face.
Well, sure, but up to that point, she asked him to take the mask off, and he does. That was, by the way, a brilliant piece of foreshadowing, I thought.
Did you just think of something? You just thought of something.
No, I was talking about this. There was just no reason for that. You weren't. He could have been walking around without that mask the entire movie, and we wouldn't have known his secret. The mask did not
How
contain.
did he contain the hair in that mask?
Well, that's
my God.
Question.
Well, the thing is, the dude is an ex-Marine, right?
Right.
The actor is actually an ex-Marine. He was an infantryman in the Marines. And so the dude, he's accustomed to short hair. And now he's got this big head of hair like a Spaceballs helmet.
Yeah. Speaking of Spaceballs, they say they're making another one.
Yep.
I'm more excited about that.
No, I'm not. This is with everything that has happened to me personally this year.
No, sorry, I gotta interrupt just for 1 second.
Go ahead.
They've just been handed so much good material to work from in the next Spaceballs. The next Spaceballs movie is literally, the subtitle is going to be, didn't we do this before? And in fact, at one point, Harrison Ford says that.
Han Solo says, it's a Death Star. There's a way to blow it up. There's always a way to blow it up. But here's the thing, though. People are complaining that it's the same plot rehashed. Star Wars is about big. It is not about... It's about why have 5 X-Wings when you can have 30 X-Wings and 10 Y-Wings and 4 B-Wings and 15 A-Wings.
Yeah, well, they certainly got all that.
It's not about 186,000-ton cruisers in Star Trek. It's about 8 million-ton Star Destroyers, and that's not a moon.
You mean
that's
Star
a space
Wars.
Station. Star Trek is 186,000-ton cruiser.
Yeah.
Star Wars, excuse me. Maybe I botched that. I don't know. And I don't care because I'm jacked up about this. Can you tell?
We're both jacked up about it.
I know. Listen how I'm talking, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. The Star Wars has always been big. Star Wars has always been super weapons. It's always been, why do we, instead of making this turbo laser on a single Star Destroyer, we're going to wrap a planetoid around it.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with it being another super weapon that's got to be destroyed. Even in the expanded universe novels that Disney wiped clean, and frankly, if I was some of those authors, I'd be pretty pissed at this point.
And if you were some of the other authors, you'd be pretty relieved.
Yeah, some of those books were terrible. But anyway, not all of them. The whole Children of the Force going bad. Yeah, has been done.
Yeah. Anyway.
But it's, Disney eradicated it, so I guess, they can do whatever the hell they want now. The coming to get you, says Mickey.
But here's the thing. This is the third J.J. Abrams movie in the last 10 years or so, right? We had 2 Star Trek movies. Least. We have a third one on the way. But the 2 Star Trek movies was him. This third one is less of him. And the Star Wars movie is him. And thankfully, Lawrence Kasdan, which is probably why it worked as well as it did.
I think you're right. I think the dialogue is not J.J. Abrams.
No, it very clearly isn't. It was so much better.
The dialogue interplay is absolutely Kasdan's work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And both a little more real, and yet, than say the more mannered dialogue of the first couple of Star Wars movies, but also funnier. And just, but in the right places, though.
Yeah, it's got the same humor that the Star Wars movies had, even in the darkest times.
Right.
This is... Who's in charge now, Phasma? Who? Huh?
Yeah, right.
Who's in charge now?
Just a brief moment of that, and then, okay, dial it back. Very good. All right. But this is certainly not the mess, and I mean complete mess, that Star Trek Into Darkness was. But let me remind you that when the trailers for the first 2 Star Trek films came out, Everybody was all hyped and amped. And more importantly,
no, not everyone.
All right, most people. But more importantly, when they went to the cinema and they saw it and they came out, everybody was like, wow, that was fun. That was great. That was, I really enjoyed that. And then a month later, they'd sat and thought about it for a bit and they go, you know what? That kind of sucked. And they did. And I have this feeling that I get your point about larger cycles and all that, and so that some of these stories should have some similarities. Okay, fine. There's a problem here that I call the Superman syndrome, which is that every movie about Superman, for some reason, feels compelled to tell you his origin story every single time. We've had 5 of them.
They did not do that. This is not an origin story movie.
No, but you know what I'm saying? It is just, there's just too much borrowing. By the second half of the movie, I was checking things off. Cantina scene? Check. Ugly guy with beautiful girl in skimpy outfit? Check.
You looked at it the wrong way. You did not go watch this movie the way you should have.
Well, I'm going to go see it
We are of
again.
the generation, you and I are of the generation where we saw this when we were children.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how we should have approached this movie.
Well, and you're right. And I tried to look at it from that point of view, and from that point of view, I enjoyed it more. I want to say that there's so much. Again, I just want to stress this. I'm 90% fine with this. It's just that 10% that gets under my skin.
I'm more fine than that. There's not even 10% that gets under my skin. There are some things, but here's the thing. I walked out of the theater and a couple things itched in my brain, but now that it's been 24 hours, those things aren't itching my brain anymore, and I'm trying to figure out how I can go back to see it again. You know what the last movie I saw in the theater was?
No.
It was War of the Worlds.
The Tom Cruise one?
The Tom Cruise one. That was the last time I was in the movie theater.
Yeah.
You do the math on that, and that is a choice.
Yeah.
That is a choice I made that I didn't need to see The Hobbit in the theater. I didn't need to see any of these things in the theater. I can wait for DVD.
Oh, no.
I saw the very
like
first possible showing of this movie.
Mm. Well, I admit it obviously got a lot of people out. We had a 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. showing because all the other showings sold out so quick. So, so it excites people. And I think people understand that big budget, big epic things like this, and The Hobbit for that matter, which I think you missed out on there, by not going to see it in the cinema, there is something about the community of that experience and that I appreciate. I go out to see movies a lot. And so I was very, very happy to be in the audience. I was very happy to see it. I'll see it again because there was so much of it that is so terrific.
I will admit, friendly crowd for the opening night, okay? But I not saying I'm a stranger to movies. Over 20 years, I've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of movies. Right. Just after War of the Worlds, I just said, you know what, I just can't.
Given that choice, I absolutely understand your
rationale.
Well,
it's not even that. I mean, there were life situations and other things and priorities that were chosen.
Yeah, I know.
In any event, I mean, The Hobbit, knowing what he did do it in advance, I made a choice not to see it in the theater.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but
there was applause, there was cheering, there was no one on their phones.
That's true. These are all true things, except that guy trying to record it in the back. Yeah, you know that one.
Well, I don't know. I was like three rows back from the IMAX screen.
Next time you go, sit much further back. And
I didn't really have a choice.
You really enjoyed it a great deal.
This is kind of how it worked. Let me tell you about the success of this film. Okay, this was at the Smithsonian. This was literally at the Air and Space Museum. Mm-hmm. They had 2 showings. They had a 7:00 showing. They actually had an earlier one now that I'm thinking about it. They had a 4:00 one, a 7:00 one, and it's the Smithsonian. It's a government-run institution, and they were going to be done. But at 5:30, they made the choice on the fly to do a 10 o'clock showing.
Yeah,
on the fly they made that choice. No pre-sale tickets, and looking at the line to go in, it was chock-a-block.
Well, that's exactly what this 1:30 a.m. showing was. It was added that day, that afternoon, in fact.
Yeah.
But I'm emphasizing the negative here on this podcast because there's some things that you should think about in the movie, and most people, 90% of the people, 90% of the reviews are going to be, for a while anyway, they're going to be, that was awesome, and they are right. It was awesome. The movie is awesome, but as you go forward, particularly as we've just been set up, essentially, for this planet that Luke's on to be Dagobah. Well, not really, but, a new Dagobah. And Luke to be a new Yoda, and for Ren to be the new Luke. And
Ren is not the... Yeah, Ren...
Not Ren.
You have the names wrong. Yeah. Rey.
Rey. And for Rey to be the new Luke, and I just feel the deja vu filling up in my throat. It just seems like J.J. Abrams, well, I'll give him a lot of credit. The effects look great, and there wasn't the lens flare issue, and, he seems to have learned.
To which I say, so what?
Well, he's learned a lot, but the man can't write an original story to save his life, apparently.
I think they did it intentionally. And I actually think it's going to be a plot point later. I think it's going to be one of those, the Force led us here. Think about it. I think it is literally going to be one of those plot points.
I think you're giving him too much credit. I think J.J. Abrams appeared to come to this thinking that because the 3 prequels didn't do terribly well, critically, they made tons of money, but they didn't do terribly well critically, that the franchise needed resurrecting. And the safest Hollywood Film School lesson 1A on how to resurrect a franchise is remake the best movie of the previous one.
The reason why I don't think that's the case is because Disney is 3/4 of the way through the Marvel universe. I think that this was a conscious decision, and I think it's going to play into the larger scope of the plot.
Well, I hope you're right and I'm wrong, but I have this feeling that later fan opinion is not going to be as kind to this film as it was initially.
I bet it is,
because that's happened twice in a row, and I think J.J. Abrams is the problem.
It may very well be, but I think it's still going to be regarded well because it's executed better than Star Trek movies.
Well, I can't stress enough these updated effects, both physical and computer generated. The performances, particularly of Harrison Ford. He's a real he just
acting all around in this has been outstanding.
But it's outstanding. Love the new characters. I loved, in fact, the one thing that I feel like was probably a JJ idea and is one of the most brilliant things in the film is trying to see under the stormtrooper mask and giving them some depth, that they're, yes, clone people, but they are still people.
What I think also is a J.J. Abrams thing was that the stormtroopers hit what they shot at.
Oh, mostly. Yeah, mostly they did.
Yep.
They were pretty good. There were, and I just want to mention that although there was a little bit of bending of the rules of physics as there is in all Star Wars movies, this was no Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit in terms of that's impossible. We didn't get a lot of that's impossible. What I just did, what I would roll my eyes over was mostly and that's in the next movie, are we going to get Habba the Jut? Is that what's going to happen?
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's how this is going to go. What I think we are going to get, though, is I think we're going to get. You see, here Target started pre-sales on the Force Unleashed DVD today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet Amazon.
We don't even have a release date for it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to bet is 2016. The beginning of 2016 will be the theater edition. The end of 2016 will be 25 or 30 minutes longer. And the reason why I think that is there are 3 or 4 action figures in the line that you never saw on screen.
Okay. Well, great. I thought the extended scenes added tremendously to the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, so I'm all for that. Even though, of course, I still thought The Hobbit was way too long.
Oh, my God. 160-page kid book turned into frickin' 9 hours of movie.
Although, I'll tell you something, I'd watch The Hobbit again before I'd watch Peter Jackson's King Kong. That was
way too long. Yeah, okay.
That was a movie that felt like 10 hours. whereas Lord of the Rings is 10 hours.
I will confess, episode 1 in the theater, I saw it several times. There are a couple reasons for that. I did want to see it a second time to make sure it sucked as bad as I thought it did, and then I had to bring children.
That's fair.
Okay,
fair.
So episodes 2 and 3 I saw once.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the first time in my entire adult life that I am even considering seeing a movie in the theater more than once.
Wow.
And I think I'm doing myself a disservice if I don't see it 3 times before the end of January.
Yeah, well, hats off. Listen, I saw the first couple of Lord of the Rings films about 10 times each. I was so impressed with them. So I understand where you're coming from there, and I will certainly go see it again because it's terrific entertainment. I just want to, again, mention that my nitpicks with it are that. They are nitpicks, not, oh my God, this thing is into darkness, stay away. So
Yeah.
so don't worry about it on that front. If you're interested in going, by all means, go. You will have a terrific time.
The movie's not going to win plot Oscars.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
It will win technical Oscars, maybe at the end of the trilogy, but also
hopefully it'll win some acting Oscars.
Everyone needs to realize in this that this is literally the launch of the Disney Star Wars universe. Even though the beginning of the movie said Lucasfilm, okay?
Yeah.
This is exactly what they did with Iron Man.
This was, incidentally, the first Star Wars movie ever not to start with the 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, and that's gonna mess up my son something terrible.
That hurts. It hurts.
That's gonna mess him up. Because my father-in-law will watch old movies on one of his cable channels, and my son will come running from wherever he is in the house when he hears the 20th Century Fox fanfare, and he will assume that he's about to watch Star Wars, and it will be a musical from 1954. You know,
sucker,
sucked in.
But I let me leave you with this, and then I'll shut up about it because again, I enjoyed the movie. It's a good movie. And it will hold up as a very good movie. Could have been a great movie, but it's at least a very, very good movie. There's a little meme floating around on Facebook that compares Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek and J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. And one of the things, they just list this long list of, peace and harmony among the races, diversification, infinite combinations, a level of intellectualism, and so on. And then the J.J. Abrams one is explosions, flares, blah, blah, blah. Very, very short list of very superficial things. I was worried that this Star Wars would be like that, and it wasn't. A little short on the list of things that I wanted out of a Star Wars movie, but just like 98 out of 100. It nailed down, so I'm okay, and like I say, I'll see it again, and I will enjoy it again. I can't wait for my wife to see it. So it's going to be fun. I kind of wish we were in the summertime because this feels like so much more of a summer movie, but I'll take it. I'm looking forward to episode 8. I particularly, especially if Lawrence Kasdan is going to be on board again, I'm there, and I would like to see. All I'm asking is next time let's have a bit more originality. Let's have maybe a different director, and then let's see what happens. I want to see the Star Wars universe mix it up again.
First of all, I'd like to make sure that John Williams survives for another 2 movies because he's in his 80s.
That music was, yes, it was mostly a rehash of the older themes, but it was just beautifully.
No, it was
beautifully
not.
done.
Have you listened to the soundtrack? It is not a rehash of the old themes.
No, there's lots of the older theme in it. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, it's not. It is so radically different than all of the other movies.
Oh, it was beautifully done. I was sitting there going, "This music is terrific."
Yeah, the episodes 1 through 3 soundtracks are better than the movies, but they're very martial. Yeah. The episodes 1 through 3 soundtracks are very, very martial, as is expected with massive clone armies and things. When J.J. Abrams did Star Trek, I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on Blu-ray, and I said, "Why did he turn Star Trek into Star Wars?"
Yeah, kind of. That's a very good point.
And
I think
then when he had a chance to do Star Wars, he took Star Wars and said, "Okay, how can I clog up the screen more?"
Kind of.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But the original Star Wars is very much a product of 1970s filmmaking. The pacing, I watched, earlier today I watched episode 4 again, just to get a feel for the pacing. After reading some discussions from children about episode 4 being kind of dull. And compared to the kineticness of episode 7, and for that matter, the kineticness of episode 3, episode 4 is this languorous stroll through Star Wars.
Yeah.
And episode 7 is, all right, let's go. Okay, take a quick breath. Okay, go. I think that's just modern filmmaking. And
yeah.
As far as the hero's journey goes, I'm fine with a rehash of episode 4. You can safely take people who have not seen Star Wars to this movie, and I think that perhaps they would take a more positive view of it than our already very positive opinion of it. It doesn't sound like we're very positive, but we are.
Yeah.
The family member that I went to Star Wars with yesterday is taking his girlfriend sometime this weekend who has never seen Star Wars. And I'm very curious to see what her opinion of it is.
Yeah, I think this is a good entry point. It maybe not if you're 7, but it is a very good entry point if you're anything older than that.
I very much wrote on Facebook, I saw the original Star Wars when I was 7. It came out when I was 7 years old. And I was that kid. Okay, I was that kid in 1970s school who knew everything about it because it completely filled his brain.
Yeah.
And this movie would overload my 7-year-old brain. And I think most 7-year-old brains it would probably overload. Yeah. On the other hand, at 10 or 11, I think this movie would be, oh, yes.
We're both of us old enough to remember Star Wars when it originally came out, originally in theaters. Now, everybody in the world has seen the 1977 Star Wars movie by now, probably on television mostly. But it's hard to underestimate. Mike touched on it there, but it's really hard to underestimate that summer. It was a summer movie. It came out in May, late May. And there were 2 films that came out almost simultaneously, just a couple of weeks apart or so, as I remember it. Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Star Wars.
2 entirely different movies.
Yeah, you could not have 2 more different science fiction movies, really, and in just about every way. But Steven Spielberg made one, George Lucas made the other. In Close Encounters of the Third Kind, most of the effects were saved for the very end. The effects was a character in the show, and it was the big reveal. In Star Wars, the original one, A New Hope,
the effects were mandatory.
First shot.
Yes.
The first shot is a giant effect shot. And the reason that Star Wars absolutely slayed Close Encounters of the Third Kind in the box office is because both of these films together, but in particular Star Wars because it was wearing it on the sleeve, just said, effects are different now. Yeah. You may have seen movies with effects in them before. This is not those.
You want a quick break. You want a quick examination of the difference in effects. Look at Star Trek: The Original Series, not the remasters, obviously, but look at the effects that they did in Star Trek: The Original Series, which, by all accounts, were state-of-the-art, 1966. 10 years later is Star Wars.
Well, I can give you an even better example. Ray Harryhausen's stop-motion animation movies were still popular in the early 70s. Yeah. In the 74 was one of the best ones, actually. And just 3 years later, we had this. In fact, some effects techniques, which are still being used today, were invented for Star Wars. Yep. Like motion tracking control and stuff like that. So this was, and even existing technologies like glass matte painting were just taken up to a whole new level. So this was a huge brain bomb dropped on people. Yeah. And so from that perspective, as somebody who remembers the original, not the re-edited, remastered, blah, blah, blah originals, it is so nice to see everybody in 3D. It is so nice to see everybody in high definition. It's so nice to see these updated effects. A re-emphasis on physical effects as well.
The original Star Wars is very much a product of its time. And we talked about that a little bit before. All you have to do to see what filmmaking was like before Star Wars is find the trailer for it. Find the teaser trailer for it on YouTube and watch it. And realize that that's what filmmaking was before Star Wars. Star Wars was revolutionary in very many respects. The science fiction movies from the 70s were all synthesizer-heavy soundtracks.
Yeah. Also, last note, two things that tie in the 2 things we've talked about tonight, Doctor Who and Star Wars. One is, attention, Stephen Moffat, this is how you kill off a character and have it mean something. Okay.
Well, different universes, different paradigms, different everything. So,
but no, when it's an important character, don't muck around with their death. Make it appropriate, make it solemn, make it meaningful. The second thing is, this is me, old Doctor Who fan that I am, but I swear to you that the new hyperspace effect in Star Wars looks way similar to the David Tennant, the opening David Tennant titles.
Then you're not remembering the original movie that well then.
No, I remember the original movie very well, and but the hyperspeed didn't look quite like that. This was much more of that Doctor Who tunnel.
Okay.
I thought, and Industrial Light and Magic works on Doctor Who sometimes. Weta works on Doctor Who sometimes. So these are all kind of incestuous effects companies that work together, and so I think I think that was a little bit of homage to me, and I'm going to choose to believe that.
Okay, so Siskel and Ebert here are both 2 thumbs up. But
we're more like the 2 grumpy old men.
Yeah, but we differ on some different aspects of how the plot developed and the fact that some people are viewing it as a remake and some people aren't. I'm not viewing it as a remake. There are similarities, but there's similarities from mythology to Star Wars.
I know, but I just felt like I'm not objecting necessarily to repeating some themes. I just felt like it was a little heavy-handed. That's all. Really, that's.
And can someone tell me exactly how Rey could speak droid?
Well, it seems like everybody but the character for whom comic relief mandates that you not be able to speak it. and certainly, here's the thing: if this is what I'm talking about, if you stop and think about this for a second. That guy, whose name I can't remember, Finn was a sanitation worker on the Death Planet. He had to talk to droids all day. That was part of his job.
On the Death
So, of
Planet.
course, he should be able to speak droid, but just for comic effect, he can't.
I like that so much better than the Star Killer base, the Death Planet. That's fantastic.
Whatever. Just, it was,
And man, how many space Nazis died on that thing, man?
Yes. That's that's another thing. Could you have made that just a little more Nazi?
As a general rule, if your space uniforms look like Nazi Germany, you're probably the bad guys.
just so you know.
Just, if you're ever wondering what side of the fight you're on, that's how you figure it out.
I think if they do something original in the next film, they've left it in a good place. The franchise is secure. The torch has been passed appropriately. And, at this point, I can just say that way back in the day, I had the opportunity to be in the room with George Lucas when he was giving press interviews way back in the day. This is shortly after the original Star Wars came out. I was a kid, but I was there. And there was 2 things that I very much remember, among other things that he said in that conversation. One was that he wanted to make 9 films.
Yep.
He said that, and then he took it back later, and now it looks like that's what we're going to get, which is fine.
The thing is John Williams said in a newspaper interview in 1978 that he was going to do 9 soundtracks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he may have walked it back, but early internet, I suppose. I don't even know what you want to call it. It's there. It's forever.
Yeah. And then the other thing was that at the time, George said that these movies, the reason you could do 9 films and they would cross this incredible span of time is because the movies are all about the adventures of the 2 droids.
Yeah.
That they're the actual heroes. You if you just watch episode 4, 5, and 6, you think Luke Skywalker is the hero. No, he's just passing through.
No, I don't think so. Well, he is. Luke is just passing through, but it's the Skywalker family is going to permeate this entire series.
Seems like it. And I'm not trying to hold him to the things that he said 40 years ago. But I am saying that he did, at least at one time, have a broader perspective on this. And I'm glad to see that somebody paid attention to that and has sort of brought that back out. I was really worried that BB-8 would become, as Elmo is to Grover, BB-8 would be to R2-D2. They did finally bring that character in and make the team, put the old team back together. And so I'm as anxious as anybody to find out what's the deal with the red arm. I'm as anxious as anybody to see what happens.
Good segue into what I'm about to say. Next winter is Rogue One, which is supposed to be about the theft of the original Death Star plans. It is supposed to be a gritty, dirt under the fingernails kind of thing, which is not that far from what we got this time. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the Disneyfication of Star Wars is going to play out with one new Star Wars movie a year for the next 6 years.
Now, this Rogue One, is that the next movie, or
That's
is it some
Rogue
spin-off?
One is Rogue One. Well, it's the next movie we're going to see.
Oh, I see.
Rogue One is out next winter, and then I think then it's Episode 8, and then
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll cut it a little slack, because that sounds like it's almost kind of a faux documentary on how that happened. But I was about to say, what you're telling me is we're going to see another film in which a piece of holographic information vital to Resistance gets handed
gets
to a
put in a
droid.
droid. Yeah,
Oh, God.
that's exactly what I'm telling you. No, I'm actually not telling you that, but in all likelihood, there will be some kind of holographic information passed, because come on, the Death Star plans for some reason were in Episode 3, but you can't poop a planet.
All right,
I mean,
but I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this right now. I'm telling the whole audience, the whole world, through this podcast, that if I go to Episode 8, and I'm
On a
really
snow
keen,
planet, you're
no. If I go to Episode 8, and the opening shot is a reprise of the last shot of Episode 7, which I thought was a little bit soap opera-y with that long helicopter run around. But anyway, and Luke takes off the hood, and I swear to God, if he says, "Train you, I will," I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
Yeah, he's not green, so you're all right. All right, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
We've
All
talked
right,
about
very good.
Doctor Who and Star Wars for a really long time tonight. This is it for the.
They're kind of related. They're both shows that people just care.
Yes, they are.
passionately about
This
and
yeah.
sweat the details.
This is it for the Off Topic Podcast as it exists right now. We'll discuss more of the plans for the Off Topic Podcast right after the new year in a State of Mac article that will be waiting for you shortly after the new year and before CES begins. And let's talk about it. We all come from the Mac-centric universe. We've got a couple people coming in for the Off Topic Podcast, but looking at the forums, we all have similar likes and dislikes. So let's make this our podcast. This is not just Charles and mine and Jordan's. Let's make this our podcast. Talk to me, talk to us. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't. Let us know what you want to talk about.
All right.
And let's do it.
Very good.
All right.
And may the Force be with you.
See you in 2016, everybody.